Have you ever noticed how some people seem to float through life storms while others get swept away by the smallest ripple? What makes the difference? I'll tell you something that changed my entire perspective on life. Something so profound yet so simple that it might just shake you to your core. Picture yourself standing at the edge of a cliff, looking down at your life spread out before you like a vast landscape. What do you see? Are you seeing all the ways life has wronged you? All the hands that should have helped but didn't? All the doors that should have opened but remained shut? Or are you seeing the countless possibilities still waiting to be explored? Right now, in this very moment, someone somewhere is facing exactly what you're facing, the same pain, the same disappointment, the same feeling of being dealt an unfair hand, but they're smiling, they're moving forward. They're turning their wounds into wisdom. What do they know that you don't? Let me share a story that might hit close to home. Imagine two seeds planted in the same garden. Both face the same harsh conditions with dew-acted soil, scorching sun, irregular water. One seed spends its energy complaining about its circumstances. Why was I planted in such hard soil? Why doesn't it rain more often? Why do I have to struggle so much? This seed eventually withers away, becoming exactly what it feared, a victim of its circumstances. But the other seed, it does something remarkable. Instead of complaining about the hard soil, it develops stronger roots. Instead of cursing the scorching sun, it grows deeper into the earth to find moisture. Instead of waiting for perfect conditions, it adapts and thrives. Same circumstances, completely different outcomes. You're probably thinking, that's just a story about seeds. My life is different. My problems are real. And you're right. Your problems are real. Your pain is real. Your struggles are real. But here's what most people never realize. Acknowledging your pain doesn't mean you have to become it. Think about the last time something didn't go your way. Maybe it was a relationship that ended, a promotion that went to someone else, or a dream that didn't materialize. How did you tell that story to yourself? Did you cast yourself as the helpless victim? Or did you see yourself as the hero in training? What's the payoff? Yes, you heard me right. What's the payoff for staying in the victim mindset? Because believe it or not, we don't hold on to patterns that don't serve us unless they're giving us something in return. Maybe it's the sympathy you receive. Maybe it's the comfort of not having to take risks. Maybe it's the familiar feeling of being right about how unfair life is. Whatever it is, acknowledge it. Not to judge yourself, but to understand yourself. You see, the victim mindset is like a warm blanket on a cold day. It feels safe, it feels comfortable, it feels justified. But that same blanket that keeps you warm is also keeping you stuck. Every time you blame someone or something for your circumstances, you're handing over your power. Every time you say, I can't, because, or if only they had, or it's not fair, that you're building your own prison, brick by brick, and then complaining about being trapped. And here's the beautiful truth that's going to set you free. You're not a victim unless you decide to be one. Read that again. Let it sink in. Feel the weight of those words in your heart. You might be thinking, but you don't understand what I've been through. And you're right. I don't. Nobody truly understands anyone else's journey. But here's what I do understand. Your past experiences may explain your feelings, but they don't have to dictate your future. Think about water for a moment. When it encounters an obstacle, it doesn't stop and complain about the unfairness of the rock in its path. It doesn't form a support group with other drops of water to discuss how difficult its journey is. It simply finds another way, over, under, around, or through water keeps flowing. That's what I'm inviting you to do today. Not to deny your experiences, not to minimize your struggles, but to find your flow again. To remember that you are not the events that happen to you, you are the consciousness that chooses how to respond to those events. You know what's fascinating? The human spirit is the only force in nature that grows stronger when faced with resistance. Trees grow stronger when exposed to wind. Muscles grow stronger when pushed against weight. Diamonds are created under pressure. What if, and this is a big what if, your challenges aren't punishments, but invitations. Invitations to grow, to evolve, to become more than you ever imagined possible. I want you to do something right now. Close your eyes for a moment. And think of the story you've been telling yourself. The one that starts with life is hard because, or I can't succeed because, got it? Now, I want you to question every word of that story as if your life depends on it, because in many ways, it does. When you find yourself falling into the victim mindset, ask yourself, what would the situation look like if I removed all blame from the equation? What possibilities would open up if I took 100% responsibility for my life from this moment forward? This isn't about denying that bad things happen. This isn't about pretending that injustice doesn't exist. This is about choosing your response to what life presents you with. This is about recognizing that while you can't always control what happens to you, you always have control over how you relate to what happens. Remember the last time you felt truly alive, truly powerful? Maybe it was when you accomplished something everyone said was impossible. Maybe it was when you finally stood up for yourself. Maybe it was when you chose forgiveness over bitterness. That feeling? That's your natural state. Everything else is learned helplessness. How many sunrises have you missed while staring at closed doors? How many opportunities have slipped by while you were busy counting your scars? The most tragic part of the victim mindset isn't what it makes us feel. It's what it makes us miss. You know what fascinates me? When you walk into a dark room and turn on the light, you don't have to force the darkness out. You don't have to argue with it, negotiate with it, or push against it. The darkness simply cannot exist in the presence of light. The same is true for the victim mindset. You don't have to fight against it. You simply need to turn on the light of awareness. Let me share something powerful with you. Every morning when you wake up, you have a choice to make. It's not a choice about what to wear or what to eat, though you'll make those choices too. It's a choice about who you're going to be today. Are you going to be the one who says, why is this happening to me? Or the one who asks, what is this teaching me? That is because it might shake you. Nobody is coming to make it all better. And that's not bad news. That's the most liberating news you could receive. Because when you truly understand that no one is coming to save you, you stop waiting and start creating. Think about a time when you felt completely powerless. Got it? Now, let me ask you something. In that moment, were you focused on what you couldn't control or what you could? Were you focused on who wronged you or what you could do right? Were you focused on your limitations or your possibilities? The victim mindset is like holding your breath because you're angry at the air. Who suffers? Not the air. The only person you hurt with resentment is yourself. The only person you punish with bitterness is yourself. The only person you limit with excuses is yourself. Here's an exercise that might change your life. Take out a piece of paper. On one side, write down everything that's happened to you that you feel bitter about. Every disappointment, every betrayal, every unfair circumstance. Write it all down. Feel the weight of each word. Now turn the paper over. On this side, write down what you're going to do about it, not what others should do, not what the world owes you, what you're going to do. You see, life doesn't happen to you, it happens through you. Every experience you've had, every challenge you've faced, every setback you've endured, they're all raw materials. The question isn't, why did this happen? The question is, what will I create with this? Let me tell you something. That might sound harsh at first, but stick with me. Your pain is not special. Your struggles are not unique. This isn't to minimize what you've been through. It's to help you understand that if others have overcome similar challenges, so can you. Your circumstances may be unique, but your capacity to overcome them is universal. Think about water again. When water reaches 211 degrees Fahrenheit, it's very hot, but it's still just water. Add one more degree, and something magical happens. It transforms into steam, which can power engines and move mountains. What's your 1 degree? What small shift in perspective could transform everything? You might be sitting there thinking, but you don't understand. My situation really is different. And maybe it is. Maybe you've faced challenges that would break most people. Maybe you've endured pain that seems unsurvivable. But here's what I know. You're still here. You're still breathing. And as long as you're breathing, you have the power to choose. The victim mindset loves to ask, why me? But what if we change the question to why not me? What if everything you've been through has been preparing you for something extraordinary? What if your struggles aren't punishments but prerequisites for your purpose? It's a powerful truth. Everything you want is on the other side of responsibility. Everything. Better relationships. Take responsibility for your part in the dynamics. Better career. Take responsibility for your growth and development. Better life? Take responsibility for your choices and responses. You know what's interesting? When you're driving a car and you look in the rearview mirror, what happens? The car tends to drift in the direction you're looking. The same thing happens in life. When you're constantly looking back at what hurt you, what wronged you, what should have been different, you drift toward more of the same. But what if everything that happened to you happened for you? What if every closed door, every rejection, every setback was actually setting you up for something better? What if your challenges weren't obstacles but opportunities? I want you to try something right now. Think of your biggest challenge, your heaviest burden, your deepest wound. Got it. Now, instead of asking, why did this happen? Ask yourself, what strength did this help me discover? What wisdom did this help me develop? What growth did this make possible? The victim mindset is like wearing glasses with scratched lenses. Everything you see looks damaged. But the damage isn't in what you're looking at. It's in how you're looking at it. Change the lens and you change everything. But here's something most people never realize. Being a victim is a full-time job. It requires constant attention to what's wrong, constant rehearsal of past hurts, constant reinforcement of limitations. What if you took all that energy and redirected it toward creating the life you want? You might be wondering, but what about justice? What about all the wrong things that have happened? Here's the truth that took me years to understand. You can pursue justice without carrying victimhood. You can acknowledge wrong without becoming it. You can seek change without being chained to the past. The most powerful moment in your life is when you realize that no one else is responsible for your happiness, your success, or your peace of mind. Not your parents, not your partner, not your boss, not society, no one. Because in that moment, you also realize that no one else can limit your happiness, your success, or your peace of mind unless you give them permission. Think about this. Every great story of triumph, every tale of overcoming, every journey of transformation began with someone refusing to be defined by their circumstances. They refused to let their wounds become their identity. They refused to let their past dictate their future. You have that same power. Right now, in this moment, you can choose to stop being a visitor in your own life and become its author instead. You can choose to stop waiting for perfect conditions and start creating them. You can choose to stop asking, why me? And start asking, what's next? Right now, I want you to do something that might feel uncomfortable. I want you to list all the ways you've been playing small, all the times you've used your past as an excuse, all the moments you've chosen comfort over growth. Don't judge yourself for what comes up. Just notice it. Because awareness is always the first step toward transformation. You see, there's something remarkable about human beings. We're the only creatures on Earth who can decide to change our entire lives in a single moment. A fish can't decide to become a bird. A tree can't choose to become a mountain. But you can transform your entire reality with a single shift in perspective. Let me share something powerful with you. Every time you say, I can't, add the words right now to the end of that sentence. I can't get a better job right now. I can't heal from this right now. I can't forgive right now. Feel the difference. You've just transformed a prison into a temporary situation. You've turned a wall into a door. The victim mindset loves permanence. It wants you to believe that whatever happened to you has marked you forever, that your pain is your identity, that your struggles are your destiny. But here's the truth that will set you free. Nothing is. Think about the person you were 5 years ago, the things that kept you up at night, the problems that seemed unsolvable, the pain that felt unbearable. Where are those problems now? They've changed, haven't they? Some have dissolved completely. Others have transformed into wisdom. Still others have become stepping stones to where you are now. You know what's fascinating? When you're in a victim mindset, you're actually trying to control the uncontrollable. You're saying life should be different than it is. People should behave differently than they do. The past should have been different than it was. But let me ask you something. How's that working out? The past is not a life sentence unless you make it one. Your wounds are not your identity unless you choose to wear them as one. Your struggles are not your story unless you continue to tell it that way. Take a moment right now and Think about your life as a book. Each experience is a chapter, each challenge is a plot twist. Each setback is a character development opportunity. Now here's the million-dollar question. Are you reading your life story or are you writing it? The victim mindset will tell you that you're just a character in someone else's story, that you're at the mercy of the plot, that you have to wait for someone else to write your happy ending. But what if you're not just a character? What if you're the author? Let me share something that changed my entire perspective. Imagine you're watching a movie and the main character keeps making choices that hurt them. They keep trusting the wrong people. They keep taking the wrong path. They keep choosing fear over love. What do you want to do? You want to shake them, right? You want to shout at the screen, wake up, make a different choice? Well, guess what? Life is giving you that same opportunity right now. You are both the main character and the viewer of your own movie. You can see the patterns. You can recognize the choices that aren't serving you. And most importantly, you can choose differently. Take out your phone right now. Open the camera. Look at yourself in selfie mode. Really look. That person looking back at you, that's who you're fighting for. That's who you're choosing for. That's who you're transforming for. Not for anyone else, not to prove anything to anyone else, but because that person deserves to live a life of power, not powerlessness. The victim mindset is like a comfortable prison cell. It's familiar. It's predictable. It even gives you a kind of peace. The peace of not having to take risks, not having to grow, not having to face the unknown. But is that really peace or is it surrender? Think about this. Every time you blame someone or something for your circumstances, you're basically saying, my life is in their hands. Every time you make an excuse, you're saying, I don't have the power to change this. Every time you play the victim, you're giving away your pen and letting someone else write your story. But here's what most people never realize. No one can write in your book unless you hand them the pen. No one can determine your worth unless you give them that power. No one can limit your potential unless you believe in those limitations. You might be thinking, but what about all the real obstacles in my life? What about the genuine limitations I face? Here's the truth, obstacles are real. Limitations are real, but your response to them, that's a choice. Always, when you hit a wall in life, you have three choices. You can stop and complain about the wall. You can turn around and go back to what's familiar. Or you can find a way over, under, around, or through that wall. The wall doesn't care which choice you make, but you should. The victim mindset loves to focus on what's lacking, what's missing, what's not fair. But what if we flip the script? What if instead of focusing on what you lack, you focused on what you have? Instead of focusing on what's missing, you focused on what's present. Instead of focusing on what's not fair, you focused on what's possible. Let me share something profound. Your power doesn't lie in what happens to you. Your power lies in how you choose to respond to what happens to you. And that choice is always yours. Think about the strongest people you know, the ones who inspire you, the ones who move you. Were their lives perfect? Did everything go their way? Or did they face challenges that would break most people and chose to use those challenges as fuel for their transformation? It's not the absence of weakness. It's not the absence of fear. It's not the absence of pain. Strength is what you choose to do with your weakness, your fear, and your pain. Will you let them define you, or will you let them refine you? Let me tell you something that might change everything for you. Right now, in this moment, someone with less than you has achieved more than you dream of. Someone with bigger obstacles has overcome more than what's holding you back. Someone with deeper wounds has healed more completely than you think possible. What's the difference? They refuse to let their circumstances define their possibilities. You know what keeps us stuck in the victim mindset more than anything else? The stories we tell ourselves. I'm not ready. It's too late. I don't have what it takes. Life is unfair. These aren't just thoughts. They're prophecies we fulfill without realizing it. Think about water for a moment. When water flows into a container, it takes the shape of that container. Your life is doing the same thing right now, flowing into the container of your beliefs. If your container is built from victim thoughts, your life will take. But here's the beautiful truth. You can reshape the container at any moment. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine yourself 5 years from now. Really see yourself, feel yourself. Be yourself in that future moment. Now, let me ask you, is that future self still carrying the same victim stories you're carrying now? Is that future self still making the same excuses? Still blaming the same people? Still waiting for permission to live fully? The victim mindset is like walking through life with your eyes fixed on your feet. You'll avoid some puddles, sure. But you'll miss the mountains, the stars, the horizons calling your name. What if you lifted your gaze? What if you dared to look up and ahead? Here's something most people never realize. Your pain is real. Your struggles are real. Your challenges are real. But your interpretation of what these things mean, that's a choice. And it's a choice you get to make new every single moment. Think about the last time something bad happened to you. Got it. Now, let me ask you, what if that wasn't happening to you, but for you? What if that closed door wasn't a rejection, but a redirection? What if that loss wasn't an ending, but a beginning? The victim mindset loves certainty. It wants to know why things happened, who's to blame, what went wrong. But here's a truth that might set you free. Sometimes the most powerful answer is, I don't know. Because in that yet lives all the possibility in the universe. Let me share something powerful with you. Every great achievement in human history began with someone saying, even though I've failed before, even though nobody believes in me, even though the odds are against me, even though I'm scared, what's your even though moment going to be? You know what's interesting? When you're stuck in the victim mindset, you're actually trying to protect yourself. From what? From failure, from disappointment, from people. Trying to protect yourself from pain. You're causing yourself the deepest pain of all, the pain of not fully living. Take a moment right now and think about all the energy you spend on being a victim. The mental rehearsals of past hurts. The carefully constructed explanations of why you can't. The elaborate stories about how unfair life is. Now imagine taking all that energy and redirecting it toward creating what you want. Can you feel the difference? There's a truth that might shake you. Nobody is thinking about your failures as much as you are. Nobody is replaying your mistakes as often as you are. Nobody is counting your flaws as carefully as you are. You are your own harshest judge and your own most devoted critic. But here's the good news. You can also be your own most powerful ally. The victim mindset loves to ask, what if it goes wrong? But what if we change the question to what if it goes right? What if everything you're afraid of is actually preparing you for everything you've ever wanted? What if your challenges aren't obstacles but opportunities in disguise? Think about this. Every time you say, I can't, there's someone out there with less resources, less support, and bigger obstacles saying, I can. Every time you say it's too hard, there's someone out there with more pain, more setbacks, and bigger challenges saying, what do they know that you've forgotten? Your greatest power lies in your ability to choose your response. Not your circumstances, not your past, not your limitations, your response. That's your superpower, that's your magic. That's your key to freedom. You might be thinking, but I've tried before and failed. Good. That means you're not afraid to try. But I've been hurt before. Good. That means you're not afraid to care. But I've been disappointed before. Good. That means you're not afraid to hope. Your past attempts aren't your failures. They're your The victim mindset is like wearing a heavy coat in summer. It might have protected you once, but now it's just weighing you down. You don't have to rip it off all at once. You can unbutton it slowly. You can take it off one sleeve at a But make no mistake, it's time to take it off. You're something most people never understand. Your power doesn't come from never falling. Your power comes from how you choose to rise every time you fall. Your power doesn't come from never feeling fear. Your power comes from what you do while feeling afraid. Your power doesn't come from never being hurt. Your power comes from what you choose to do with your hurt. Think about a time when you surprised yourself. When you did something you didn't think you could do. When you survived something you didn't think you could survive. When you created something you didn't think you could create. That wasn't luck, that wasn't chance. That was you stepping out of the victim mindset and into your power. Let me tell you something that changed my life. The same force that holds the planets in orbit lives in you. The same power that turns seeds into forests flows through you. The same energy that moves mountains resides in you. But you have something the planets, forests, and mountains don't have. the power to choose. The victim mindset will tell you to wait. Wait until you're ready. Wait until it's perfect. Wait until you're certain. But here's the truth. Readiness is a myth. Perfection is a lie. Certainty is an illusion. The only thing that's real is this moment and what you choose to do with it. Every great story of transformation begins with someone who refused to stay a victim. Every journey of healing begins with someone who decided their wounds would be their wisdom. Every tale of triumph begins with someone who chose to be bigger than their circumstances. You know what's beautiful about this moment right now? It's a blank page. Everything that's happened up until now, all the pain, all the disappointments, all the setbacks, they're just the preface to your story. The real story begins with what you choose to do right now. Think about an eagle for a moment. When a storm comes, every other bird seeks shelter. But the eagle spreads its wings and uses the storm's winds to rise higher than it could on its own. That's what I'm inviting you to do. Not to deny your storms, but to use them. Not to avoid your challenges, but to transform them into fuel for your flight. Let me share something powerful with you. Your wounds are not your identity unless you keep reopening them to prove they exist. Your past is not your destiny unless you keep reliving it to justify your present. Your limitations are not your reality unless you keep reinforcing them to explain your future. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine handing your power back to yourself. All the power you've given to circumstances, all the power you've given to other people's opinions, all the power you've given to past hurts. Feel the weight of that power returning to you. Feel the strength of reclaiming your story. The victim mindset is like looking at life through a dirty window. Everything appears cloudy, distorted, but the problem isn't with what you're looking at, it's with what you're looking through. Clean the window, and suddenly everything looks different. Change your perspective, and suddenly everything is different. Here's a truth that might shake you to your core. Every moment you spend in the victim mindset is a moment you're choosing not to live fully. Every excuse you make is a dream you're choosing to postpone. Every blame you place is a power you're choosing to give away. Think about all the energy you spent asking, why me? What if you took all that energy and started asking, what's next? What if you took all the power you've put into your pain and put it into your purpose? What if you took all the attention you've given to what's wrong and gave it to what's possible? The victim mindset loves company. It wants you to find others who will validate your limitations, confirm your fears, and reinforce your excuses. But growth often walks alone. Transformation often means leaving the comfort of common excuses behind. Your life right now is a sum total of your choices, not your circumstances. Yes, life throws curveballs. Yes, unfair things happen. Yes, people can hurt us. But what defines us is not what happens to us. It's what we choose to do with what happens to us. You might be thinking, but you don't understand how hard it is. You're right. I don't. Nobody truly understands anyone else's journey. But here's what I do understand. The same fire that melts butter hardens steel. It's not about the fire. It's about what we're made of and what we choose to become. The victim mindset is like driving with the parking brake on. You can still move forward, but you're fighting against yourself every step of the way. Isn't it time to release the brake? Isn't it time to stop fighting against yourself? Isn't it time to let yourself fly? Think about this. Every limitation you accept becomes your prison. Every excuse you make becomes your chain. Every blame you place becomes your barrier. But here's the beautiful truth. You hold the key to your own freedom. You always have. You know what's amazing about human beings? We're the only creatures who can change our entire lives simply by changing our minds. We're the only beings who can transform our reality by transforming our thoughts. We're the only ones who can choose our way out of any situation by choosing a new perspective. Let me share something that might change everything for you. Your power doesn't lie in controlling what happens. Your power lies in choosing what it means and what you'll do with it. That's a power no one can take from you unless you give it away. The victim mindset will tell you that you're stuck with who you are, that your past defines your future, that your wounds determine your worth. But what if those are just stories? What if you could write new ones? What if you could choose again right now? Think about water once more. When it's frozen, it's rigid. stuck, limited. But add a little heat, a little energy, a little determination, and it transforms. It flows. It finds new paths. It creates new possibilities. That's what I'm inviting you to do. Not to stay frozen in your pain, but to transform and flow into your power. Here's a truth most people never realize. Every moment of your life, you're either creating or complaining, you're either building or blaming, you're either growing or grieving what could have been. The choice is always yours. The victim mindset loves to focus on what's missing, what's broken, what's wrong. But what if everything you think is missing is actually waiting to be created by you? What if everything you think is broken is actually waiting to be transformed by you? What if everything you think is wrong is actually inviting you to create something new? At any moment, you can say, this is not how my story ends. At any moment, you can say, I am not my circumstances. At any moment, you can say, I choose differently now. That's not positive thinking. That's powerful living. As we come to the end of our time together, I want you to know something. Everything you've been through has made you who you are, but it doesn't have to determine who you'll become. Every wound you carry can become wisdom you share. Every setback you face can become a setup for something greater. The choice is yours now. Will you stay comfortable in your familiar pain, or will you step into the uncertainty of growth? Will you keep reading the old story of victimhood, or will you pick up the pen and write a new story of victory? Will you keep asking, why me? Or will you start declaring, watch me? The world doesn't need another victim. The world needs your light. The world needs your strength. The world needs your unique way of transforming pain into power, wounds into wisdom, and challenges into change. Your life is waiting. Your power is waiting. Your truth is waiting. The only question is, are you ready to let go of who you think you should be to become who you truly are? Are you ready to release the victim and embrace the victor? Are you ready to stop surviving and start thriving? You were never meant to be a victim. You were meant to be a force of nature. You were meant to be a light in the darkness. You were meant to be the hero of your own story. And that story, it begins right now, in this moment, with your next choice. What will you choose?